of the plane object because it's got UVW mapping. So just undo that. So how do we get the, with UV mapping, so UV mapping, how do we get the aspect ratio right? Well, we do that by just changing the length V or the tiles V. So just change that to 50%, okay? And there is the correct aspect ratio. Because I've got tile enabled, it's being tiled. So there it is there. So there's the image with the correct aspect ratio, so you can see we've changed that to tiles 2. All right, and if you want to move it around, you can just use that offset. You can animate those values, by the way. If you have tiling on, you can animate the offset, going left or right or up and down for some quite cool effects. Okay, in this particular case, I'm able to get the aspect ratio right and sort of move it around fairly easily, but that's because I'm using a plane object. And as you saw before, when you get sort of complex parts, things start getting a bit trickier. So let's sort of move on and we'll have a look at using a rectangular image applied to a cube. So just close all this down. So file, close all. Okay. Okay, so let's create a cube, and I'm just going to give it a plain white color. So double click to create a new material. I'll even change the name. So just where it says matte there, double click, call it white. And just over here in the attributes manager, you can see they're all on 204, and I'm just going to drag the sliders to 255. So we've got a bright white material, drag and drop that onto the cube. So I want to get some text onto the cube. Okay, so I'm going to create another material, double click, and this one, I'll change the name, and I'm going to use some C4D Cafe text. Now this time the text I created in a 2D paint program with a transparent background, so it has a built-in alpha channel. So just in the color channel, click on the button, and here it is here, C4D Cafe transparent. So it's a TIFF image, and TIFFs have a built-in alpha channel if you created it with one. So click on it, click open. No, I don't want to create a copy. Now the preview, it's on a sphere. I'd prefer to change the preview to something a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to right click down here where I'm circling around and change the preview to plane. The aspect ratio isn't right. Okay, so this is a rectangular image, but that doesn't really matter. This is just a preview. Now to get an alpha channel, click on basic, and I'll just drag up so you can see a little bit easier. Enable alpha channel, click on the alpha channel tab, and I don't need to click on the button to load it. It's got a built-in alpha channel, so I can just use the same image. So click on the little button there, come up to bitmaps, and you won't be able to see this, but I'm just going to select C4D Cafe transparent dot TIFF. Okay, and that's all I need to do. It has a built-in alpha channel, so I don't need to play around or with any of these invert or anything like that, and that's just good to go. Apply it onto my cube. Because the tag is on the right, it's on top of the white. So if the tags were around the other way, the white is on top of the other text. So just put that there, so things work from right to left. Now it's on every face of the cube, and that's because the UVs for a cube, recall when we were in a body paint UV edit layout, they're all stacked one on top of each other. I just want to have it so that the text is on the top. I guess one quick way would be to use a selection tag, make the cube editable and use a selection tag, and you will have to do that sometimes when you're using flat projection, but let's change the projection and do it without having to do anything else. Okay, so I'm going to change the projection from the default UV mapping to flat, and we're going to start with flat because that's the one you'll use most often. We'll go through some of the other ones a little bit later on, so change that to flat. Now it's not on the top, it's on the front and it's on the back. So what's happening is that material, and the aspect ratio is wrong, by the way, and we can change that just by going 50 and have it tiled. We'll come back to that, but that's, you can just like we did before, we'll just undo. I want to get it coming down from the top, but the material is being projected down the Z axis. It's being projected that way, okay? And you can see there's the Z axis there of the cube and the world axis there. I want to get it being projected downwards. So how do you do that? Well, you do it by going into texture mode, and there it is there. Okay, you do need to have your object selected, and you need to have your texture tag selected as well. Okay, so I've got those selected. I'll go into texture mode. Now this is something where there's been a change, and the change occurred with release 14. Prior to release 14, there was actually two of these buttons, and they looked very much the same. One was the texture tool, and the other one was the texture axis tool. And it's the texture axis tool that you'll want to use 99.9% of the time. At the moment, we're in what I would call the texture tool, or they're calling it, Maxon calls it, if you hover the mouse over, use texture mode. We want texture with axis mode enabled, and you do that by clicking on the axis there, axis modification there. So click that, so you've got two things enabled. So at the moment, this is in release 13 and earlier would be what's called texture axis tool. In release 14 and 15 and above, you need to click on both. And when release 14 came out, this actually threw a few people because they just clicked on the one here at the top and they didn't know they had to click on that one to get the texture axis tool. So when you're sort of working and changing the orientation of your projections, you'd need to click on both. And when you do that, you get this preview of your projection here. If you just click off the axis, you're getting an envelope with the in texture axis mode. If you click off it, a bit hard to see, but you're actually getting an envelope, and that's what you want. And to change the orientation, you just use the move, scale, and rotate tools. Okay, so I want to rotate the projection to be going downwards. So it's just a matter of clicking on the rotate tool and spinning it around 90 degrees. And you can see as I spin it around, it's going around like that. Now, how do you sort of do it accurately? Well, you use quantizing. You can either click, then holding the left mouse button down, and then press the shift key, and then quantize it around like that if I undo. Or you can come into snapping, just click on that, hold the mouse button down and click on enable quantizing, and that means you don't have to hold down the shift key, and just spin it around 90 degrees just like that. Let's just have a look at the tag. Okay, so I've got the texture tag selected. Have a look at the coordinates. Okay, and you can see there it's gone to minus 90 degrees. Let's just undo. So you can do it interactively. If I undo, get it back there. Okay, so it's back to 0. You can do it interactively in the viewport, or you can do it, and I'll just drag on the slider here. So I'm dragging on the little spinner there. Okay, so what did we have? Minus 90. You can do it precisely using the coordinates. So at the moment, because I'm in texture mode and